So Yezdi has launched 3 new bikes in the Indian market, and we have already done a detailed walk around review of all 3 bikes. You can get the link in the I button. In this video we're going to talk about the all new Yezdi Roadster. और अगर आप ये वीडियो हिंदी में देखना चाहते हैं तो सब्सक्राइब कीजिए मोटरॉइड्स हिंदी चैनल पे। उसका लिंक आपको डिस्क्रिप्शन में मिल जाएगा और वहाँ पे जाके आप इसी बाइक का हिंदी रिव्यू भी देख सकते हैं। So getting on with the video, we have already done a detailed walk around of the bike, so I'm not going to go in a lot of details with regards to the design of this motorcycle. As you can see, this is a cruiser style motorcycle and there is a lot of resemblance with its cousin, the Java 42. Besides that, it also competes against the Honda CB Highness and the Meteor 350 along with the Royal Enfield Classic 350 as well. Now in terms of the engine performance, the engine capacity, this is a 334cc liquid cooled engine which is shared with the Java 42. Now even though it is the smallest engine in this segment, it is the most powerful. It produces 29.7 PS of peak power at 7,300 RPM and 29 Newton meters of torque at 6,500 RPM. Which is more than the Java 42 as well, which produces 27.3 PS and 27 Newton meters of torque. And like its Java cousin, it also gets a 6-speed gearbox, while the other motorcycles in this range have a 5-speed gearbox. Now the presence of the 6th gear definitely makes a lot of difference, and when you ride this bike on the highways and when you're cruising at about 100 kilometers per hour, the 6th gear comes in handy for you to cruise more comfortably and for the engine to be more refined and vibe free. Now while we are talking about the performance, let me also tell you, this bike makes its peak power at 7,500 RPM, but the mid-range is between 4,000 and 6,000 RPM. Now the peak power for the bike is produced at 7,500 RPM. However, the meat of the performance is between the 4,000 and 6,000 RPM range, where the engine behaves the way it's supposed to be and at its optimal performance. So what I'm trying to say here is that between 4,000 and 6,000 RPM, the engine is vibe free. The engine is very smooth. You will have a smooth ride, and also the power that you get between 4,600 RPM will be enough to keep you in triple digit speeds. Now the bike is not as enthusiastic as the Scrambler or the Adventure, but it does put out the power in a linear fashion. Talking about in-gear acceleration, it goes up to 45 kmph in the first gear, 70 in the second and 95 in the third, 110 in the fourth and 130 about the fifth gear. Now we could not clock the top speed of this motorcycle since we were riding on public roads, so we did not want to go past the speed limits, but the claimed top speed is 140 kilometers per hour, which is very good for a bike of this segment. Even when you're cruising at about 100-110, you will notice that the bike is riding very smoothly. You can cruise very easily at 100 and 110 kmph. Once you go above 6,000 RPM, you will start feeling vibrations on the footrest and also the tank and the seat. However, another thing which I noticed while I was riding is that above 5,000 RPM, I could feel some vibration in the handlebars as well, which can get uncomfortable when you are riding for long hours and you will have that ringing sensation in your hands. Talking about the suspension, you get telescopic suspension forks in the front, and you get twin coil spring suspension at the rear, which is adjustable to 5 steps. Right now it is set at the medium setting, and while we were riding on plain tarmac, the suspension is pretty good. It's not very stiff, nor is it very soft. It's just the right amount. And if you want a softer suspension or a stiffer suspension, you can always get that adjusted with this knob right here. You get an 18-inch wheel in the front and a 17-inch at the rear. The front you get a 100 by 90 section tire, and at the rear you'll get a 130 by 80 section tire. The tires provided are MRF Zapper, and I found that in the corners these tires are not very confidence inspiring, and this bike is not supposed to be tucked into corners, but yes, you can do a little bit of cornering, but if you do hard cornering, you will find that the bike is not very comfortable at the corners. You also have the chance of scraping the exhaust tips. Now, talking about the exhaust tips, you have twin exhausts on one on either side, and just if you were waiting to see how the bike sounds, I'll just crank the engine up. So that's how the exhaust of the Yezdi Roadster sounds. Let us know in the comments, what do you think about the exhaust. Now, I definitely found the exhaust on the Scrambler a bit more throaty, and the one on the Adventure a bit more bassy. This one too has a lot of bass, and it sounds like a more refined bike, which is supposed to be ridden in the city. It is very comfortable for riders up to 5'5" or 5'6". My height for reference is 5'9", and I am put both my feet flat down on the ground, and the seat height is 790 millimeters, which is pretty decent. You also get 175 mm of ground clearance, so that also gives you a little bit of freedom to go up soft roading. Now, as you can see, we are not in a conventional terrain. This is a little bit of off-roading terrain. So yes, this bike is capable of a little bit of soft roading. You cannot go for hardcore off-roading with this bike, of course, because of the wheel size. Also, the wheelbase of the bike is the longest among the three Yezdi bikes that have been launched. The wheelbase is 1440 millimeters, which is at par with the Honda CB Highness as well. And the other bikes, including the Java 42, have a shorter wheelbase than this bike. The overall weight of the bike is 184 kilograms. And as you can see, you get this nice handlebars, which make it very easy to maneuver the bike in the city. Of course, you cannot flick the bike, it's a little heavy, so you cannot flick the bike like any other street naked bike, but it is pretty easy to maneuver the bike. Now, talking about the handlebar, it's nice and you can get a good hold, a good reach. You can maneuver the bike very easily. You also get this bar and mirrors, which give a decent view of the road behind you. You wish these were a little wider or a little more outside, and the view would have been much better. The switchgear quality is decent and is at par with the other Yezdi motorcycles. You get these buttons to control the instrument cluster, and then you have the button for the turn indicators, the horn, and on this side you have the ignition switch, button for the hazard light and the ignition. Now, talking about the instrument cluster itself, you have all these telltale lights right here. It's a fully digital console. You get a digital tachometer here, and the red line is at 12,000 RPM. You get a digital speedometer, odometer. You also get a gear position indicator, the fuel gauge, and a clock. Unfortunately, there is no distance to empty or average fuel consumption readout on this console. Now, you also have this nice fly screen that gives the bike a very good look. Now, it's not very effective in terms of deflecting the wind, but it does look very nice. This grille that you see here, it's an accessory and can be attached with an extra cost. Another thing to note is that the side stand bar right here, it's stuck to the exhaust, and it could, you will find it very difficult to grip it and pull it out. So if this knob was a little bigger, it would have been easier to pull the side stand out. So for safety reason, once the side stand is pulled out, the engine will switch itself off, which is a good safety feature. Talking about the lights, you get LED headlamps and an LED tail light. The indicators, however, are bulbs, they are not LEDs. Now, coming to the fuel tank, You get a nice metallic fuel tank with the Yezdi logo right here, and this nice tank, rubber tank grip, which you can use to grip the tank. The fuel fill cap is also made of metal and covered with chrome, has this nice Yezdi logo right here. And this is not a flip up. You need to completely take this out in order to get your bike refueled. Now, talking about the seat, as you can see, it's a split seat. It's not a single piece seat. You get a nice cushion. The cushioning is very good. It could have been better, but it's good for rides about 350 kilometers. You should be fine. I only wished that the seats would have been a little broad and a little more behind. So I found myself scooting back while riding. Now I'll tell you why that is. Because when I am riding, so this is the seating position that I am in with the current seat. And if you can see, my knees are coming forward. But to get a comfortable seating position, this is where I should be. And that's the reason I found myself scooting back continuously. So yes, if the seat was a little longer for the rider and the pillion, of course, it would have been good. Now this seat is also not bad for the pillion. The pillion also gets a backrest, which is really good. There are two grab handles on either side, and you get this Parsi logo which is exclusive to the Yezdi Roadster. The fuel capacity is 12.5 liters, and with a mileage of about 35 kilometers per liter, you should easily get a tank range of about close to 400 kilometers, which is nice. The fuel tank could have been a little bigger because this is a cruiser style motorcycle and it will be used on longer journeys. So if Yezdi would have provided a bigger fuel tank, it would have been better. In terms of brakes, you get front and rear disc brakes. At the front you get 320 millimeters discs, while at the rear you get a 240 millimeter disc. You get ABS on both the wheels, and since the Roadster, unlike its cousins, does not have riding modes, you cannot switch off the rear ABS. You also get a slip and assist clutch with the Roadster. In terms of pricing, the price for the Yezdi Roadster starts at 1.98 lakhs and goes up to 2.06 lakhs ex-showroom. In terms of colors, the Yezdi Roadster is available in 5 colors, which are divided into 2 segments, the dark range and the chrome range. The bike that you see here is a dark range bike. The colors in the dark range are dark smoke grey, dark hunter green and dark steel blue. So the bike that you see in the video is the dark steel blue. In the chrome range, you have chrome sin silver and chrome gallant grey as color options. Now overall, this bike is a very good bike for city commutes, and you will have a comfortable ride when you're going to the office, and also on the weekends when you want to go touring. You can simply do 300-400 kilometers per day very easily on this bike. And that being said, it is very close to its competition, especially in terms of the Honda Highness, which is also a very refined motorcycle. The only advantage that the Honda Highness has is that it has traction control, which none of the other bikes in this segment have. That being said, if you are in the market for a new 350cc motorcycle which is in the cruiser style, you can definitely take a look at the Yezdi Roadster. I would recommend you go ahead and take a test drive at the nearest showroom. The engine is pretty refined. There are very less vibrations. In fact, there are no vibrations in the footpeg and the seat and the tank. There are very little vibrations on the handlebars, which is okay when you're wearing gloves. You will not notice them as much. So all around, it's a very good motorcycle that Yezdi has put up in terms of fit and finish, and quality of the instrument console and the buttons is pretty good. It gets a good set of lights. We only wished the turn indicators were also LED, but yes, we have to make do with the bulb ones on this bike. Let us know, what do you think about the Yezdi Roadster? Let us know what do you think about the Yezdi Roadster, and do you think that there are other motorcycles which are much more better than this? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe to Motorides if you haven't already. Hit the like button if you like this video. Share it with your friends and families. And whenever you're searching for automotive content, always put Motorides in your search so that you can find our videos very easily. This is Vipul signing off. I will see you in the next video. Until then, rev hard, rev free, and ride safe.